Derivatives trading involves substantial risk of loss and is not suitable for all investors. Past performance is not necessarily indicative of future results.
So stressful when the world's on fire. Good God. I can't look at this, guys. Like, my strategy is you buy it and you hope that you got a good spot. Yeah, but we all think you're crazy. You don't fight this. No way. The markets are freaking out and you don't think that anything is wrong? Come back tomorrow and I'll lose it all. Should be fun. Good. Oh my gosh, hold on. Good morning, everybody. It is Monday, and we have a very big week ahead of you. Now, I probably don't look so great. I don't know if you can tell, but I am having a colonoscopy exam this morning. So we're only going to be doing the stream for about an hour. I'm not going to be taking any trades. We'll just chat. I'm pretty effing hungry, and I need to decide what I am going to eat when I am done with my colonoscopy. But first, the charts. So things are looking, so some of my charts are still loading here, but markets are looking very risk off. This morning you can see the S&P 500 just starting the week off to a real doozy. So I think that what's going on here, well, there's two things really. First of all, we've got the Federal Reserve coming this week on Wednesday. That's what makes this week so big. There's also a lot of important data coming out as well. For instance, tomorrow we're going to have the housing starts numbers and so forth. And then there's the Treasury. So people, everything's kind of risk off. But then we've also got Evergrande is falling apart right now. So the developers in Hong Kong in particular got like hit really hard overnight from what I'm reading. All right. So the S&P 500 is down really big and the treasuries are up really big after having such a big down move there. Like, wow. The end of the week was pretty brutal for the treasuries. They really fell out and now they're back up and they're higher. So it's interesting because when I was reading my briefing, they were at 133.05. They're already up to the 08s. So the risk aversion is definitely out there in force. Be advised, oil also kind of down now. Oil is kind of becoming an interesting trade because there's a good chance that in the winter oil is going to be up, but there is a lot of concern about this Evergrande thing and global growth in general, and oil usage in China and so forth is pushing us down. I think that the risk of higher energy prices for Europe is a greater risk and that eventually we will move up. But for now, it looks like that global growth concern is a really big deal for oil and natural gas. Natural gas coming way back after that mania last week. Now, silver and gold are not seeing benefits from this risk-off flow, just kind of hovering there, suggesting perhaps that they still think the Federal Reserve is going to taper. Copper down too as China continues to talk about taping down on rampant speculation in markets. Okay, so one of my charts is not loading. NinjaTrader, why? That's okay. We don't need that chart, I guess. I guess we don't actually need that chart. Anyways, so that's basically where we're at. Let me come in and turn on the reader. Who we got here? We got lots of you guys starting chat here early, huh? Dan, Wynn, saw Tommy a little bit further up. Gus, lots of regulars. Thank you guys very, very much. Short stream, yeah. We're only going to be an hour, as when the E-mini opens is about the time that I've got to go. All right. I'm sorry, but I hear that it's okay. Well, it's my third time now. Is it my third time or is it my fourth? No, I think it's my third time. I have literally nothing in my digestive system anymore, I'm pretty sure. Still plunging. Yeah, E-mini does not look very happy, does it? So to the Evergrande thing, I think we'll be okay. I don't think that the United States financial system is very tied to the financial system of China, like the rest of the world is tied to the United States. So a Lehman-like collapse is not the end of the world per se. Well, it's not necessarily. I guess it's...
Good morning, traders. If you are just now joining our short stream, please hit the like button. Hit it twice if you don't have to have a colonoscopy. A sympathy like for speculators, lol.
If only you could hit it twice, right? Oh, man. No, so I don't think that Evergrande defaulting has to be like instant recession. It could be, though. I mean, the financial system is very complicated, and I don't necessarily know what all of the connections are and what the contagion is going to be. But for now, the thing is that even if the Evergrande thing like blew over, you still got like the Federal Reserve later this week. So it's really interesting to me. Things starting to look very awful and dire just ahead of the Fed meeting where they were largely expected to taper. So can they really taper now? And the other thing is that it's not just the Federal Reserve tapering. It's going to be like the whole... hold on, let's fix this. It's going to be all this government stimulus that we've been getting too is going to trail off here. So, I mean, the outlook for markets in the near future. Okay, so it's getting this one, not data available to process this command, and it gets frozen. Can you explain how to look at this option chain GUI? So which option chain are you looking at? Are you looking at it in NinjaTrader? So I don't get the options data through NinjaTrader. Oh, I'm hungry. Because it's morning time. I've been pretty fine through all of this, not really feeling hungry. But I'm waking up this morning and it's morning time and it's time for me to eat. My stomach hurts. What are we seeing on the screen right now? What you are seeing is a depth of market. Oh, did you think that what we were looking at was an options chain? That's funny. I totally understand why you might think that too. Yeah, no. So what you're looking at is the depth of market, and this is displaying the depth at every price. So basically, if you go out and you submit a limit order, then your limit order gets put out into these queues, right? Now, the pricing is kind of a little confusing in treasuries, but basically they do it in sixteenths and half of a 16th and half of a 32nd of a point in treasury. So you got 133.070, and then when you come up to 31 half, then it goes up to 134 even, right? But that price, that thing in the middle, that's the price, right? And then that blue column are the limit buy orders, and that orange-red column are the limit sell orders. And then those two columns in the middle are the market buy orders hitting into them, right? So did you see 1,899 market sell orders came in and sold, and then about 1,000 stacked on the offer, and price moved down and 14 hit into 07. And that's basically what we're looking at. So think of it as six forces: limit buys, limit sells, market buys, market sells, and then the limit buys and the limit sells canceling, right? So there's them adding and they're canceling. And this is something that I haven't talked about a lot on the channel, but I think we will talk about. I need to make a video about this sort of stuff, but basically you want to watch these queues and see how stable they are. So there's certain mathematical properties about it where if you get a really big order, or if there's a lot of orders sitting at a price, a lot of different people have submitted orders at a specific price, then you are more likely to see an order cancel than you are, right? If there are 1,000 people on there, you're less likely to see one person cancel than you are if there's 10,000 people there, right? So that's another thing that we want to watch, is we want to see where it stabilizes at. Is that there's a certain point where like it goes too small, there's an incentive for people to add. When it gets too high, there's an incentive for people to take off. And I want to see it stabilize. So you can see right now, okay, it changed, but right now it's pretty stable around 1,000 to 1,200. But then look, the E-mini moves down and you can see a couple of those orders are pulling and you're seeing orders hit up into it, right? So that's why I would say right now that the treasuries are being driven largely by equity risk off, demand, right? They're buying the treasuries because the S&P 500 is plummeting. But they just had a pretty good, you see they moved down, they shot right back up very quickly, even as I was saying that. This is fast. Anyways, but you can see now it's a little, that bid a little bit stronger, right? So you want to watch where they stabilize at to kind of get a reading about what the market is feeling like at any given point. That's also like if you see one of these big orders, see like the 62.97, it's not changing at all. Probably half of that is in one order. There's probably 3,000 like there is at every other level, and then there's one guy with a 3,000 lot. So that's how I know that there's like a ton of that there's not actually a ton of people. It's just one big guy there. If it was changing a lot all the time, then I would know, okay, like a lot of different people have their orders there, and that might tell me something too, right? And that is basically how you read the depth of market. Yep. We need to, I've been thinking about it this weekend because, so somebody came to me with the questions about how to set their platform up because they wanted to set up the bridge. And like, I realized that I didn't really have up-to-date information about all of that, what using Rhythmic API versus the CQG and the bridge, and the whole thing about with NinjaTrader, you basically have to use NinjaTrader brokerage to get over there now. Yeah. So yeah, Jigsaw is the software they use. Anyways, so I need to make some videos about that. I probably need to make a video just explaining how to use the DOM, like a very basic one, and maybe a couple of other ones to talk about certain kinds of things to look for. I got to be very careful. Like, I don't want to give away like specific traits. But yeah, I think that there's a couple more beginning resources that I need to make. I think I need to make another video on technical analysis, but this time it should be like why technical analysis is mostly a waste of time. Well, they're pushing down a little bit now. They think that the E-mini has recovered. Yeah, and Uzi says, seems madness has begun in Asian markets. It sure does. Cut down more trees. Dude, I'm really surprised though at how there is so much movement, and we've known about this. They've been talking about this Evergrande thing for like 2 weeks, It's just crazy how, even though it might seem like the market's like way ahead, they're not. There's still the actual price is still behind the curve. You could have made a bet. You could have gone short the S&P 500 a week ago, and you probably would hardly have ever had anything come back against you either. TA is a mass delusion. Well, I don't know if it's actually a mass delusion, YouTube Finance. I think that the real thing here is that like there probably was at one time a reason to use it, and it's just been arbitraged away. I know this wasn't unforeseeable, right? Yeah. And so like I think a really good example is all of these things that are like, especially like moving average trades. I've seen a lot of studies, and when I say a lot, I think I've seen this mentioned in 2 or 3 different abstracts where they said like it used to work, but then after the 70s it stopped working. So like, I really think that when the computers came along, that a large part of the technical analysis got, removed. And so what's really going on, it's not so much a mass delusion as it is that retail traders are basically trying to trade off of information from 1970 and not from 2020. Right? So, and that's the big edge that I will share with you guys, and that we've been pushing on TikTok and we'll start putting on the channel here too, is that markets are informationally inefficient because orders have such a huge impact on price, and because large institutions that are the largest influencers of price in the market are actually very much price insensitive, or even agnostic, I would say, right? Price can move very contrary to fundamentals and leave a huge informational gap there. So here, the Evergrande thing, yeah, we knew about Evergrande, but we didn't really price it in or trade off of it because we were too concerned last week about the economic releases that we had, and the week before that, all of the rebalancing, or like the auctions and the treasuries and things like that, right? So because the market was distracted like that, they didn't really price in Evergrande risk, and it got worse, and Asian stocks are taking a big hit. I'm a programmer trying to understand the charts little by little. Yeah. Okay, yeah, I do programming. And that's the thing, is that like, if I try and program a technical edge, I mean, I've found a few things. I've found a few things that I keep to myself, but it's largely a waste of time. Like, I only do it because I enjoy it. It's fun, right? But your time is probably better spent searching for edges in places outside of technical analysis. So like the pricing of securities. So like, if the market is really that inefficient, then you need to have a way of determining what the price should be, instead of just using what is in my real name is extremely. Didn't you say that your real name was John? We were like, no, there's too many Johns. Keep your name Uzi because we don't want to have a fight to the death. That's right. Vic's about to hit it 6 months. Wow. I remember. Well, you did. I remember you were saying, I don't know, you didn't say Evergrande, but you seemed to feel that markets were headed down. Yeah, Uzi, it is John. That's funny. His name is John Doe. That's. Anyways, if the market is inefficient, pricing of securities, like having a way of fundamentally determining the value of something, kind of valuable, right? If those market flows, if these funds are extremely price insensitive, then having ways of predicting what those funds are going to do based on the requirements of their fund strategy, kind of useful, right? What else we got? Options gamma is a really big one, right? These are the sorts of things that you can program, or analyzing the order flow and pulling statistical abnormalities out of the order flow. Way more, so like getting into statistical analysis is also very, very valuable. These are all things that I haven't spent as much time with, and we definitely haven't gotten into on stream as much as we should. But if you're programming, that's where I would spend my time. Oh, if you've ever watched American Dad, Uzi Knesset was the name of the contractor Roger hired to remodel the kitchen in their house. Oh, is it? Is that where you got it from? I did not know that. Well, now I need to go and find that. I've only seen a few episodes of that show. What's from when I watched that, the few times that I watched that, I was really surprised. What is his name? Seth Green, or what's the name of the guy that produces all of those? Because he's a diehard liberal, right? He's a diehard liberal, but I think that he is a much more aware person than most level liberals, and that because he was able to make a show where I think that even though they're making fun of conservatives in with many of the characters in that show, I think that conservatives still kind of enjoy the characters, you know. I think it takes a really intelligent person to pull that sort of thing off. Apparently the Knesset thing is a thing in Israel. Interesting. Well, Treasury's still pushing down a little bit, but the Yemeni hasn't really pulled up back from where it's at. Dollar is pushed back quite a bit, though. No. Oh my gosh. So on TikTok, that reminds me on TikTok this week, there's this song. Apparently there's a character in Animal Crossing that is like an Egyptian cat, and that song is the song that is like that character's theme song or something like that. And apparently a not safe for work GIF has taken the internet by storm. So I went and saw it. I didn't really see what the big deal was about it, but all of these people on TikTok are like obsessed with this song and this sound, and it is freaking all, and I can't, it's like stuck in my head, the song is, and I'm so sick of it. Like, why is everybody obsessed with this stupid thing? Yes, Seth MacFarlane. Yeah, he's a liberal in the tolerable way. He hasn't become a communist authoritarian yet. You're right. Well, there are liberals that are like on the left that are liberals in the traditional sense, or at least they want to believe that they're, you know, following the tradition that made them called liberals in the first place, right? Like protection of rights and liberties and stuff. Yeah, it's just that so many of them, you find out that they were never really about that. They were only about that because that's what they were told was like the good and right thing, right? There's a lot of people I think there's a lot of people on both parties, but it exhibits itself in a very different way in conservatives, right? But there are a lot of people that are only in political parties, not because they understand the political ideology or because they have deeply rooted philosophical beliefs, but because they're told that that's what good people are, that, you know, if you're a liberal or you're a conservative, you're a bad person. And so a lot of their behavior and everything was all about, you know, showing to the rest of the world that they were virtuous. And when all of a sudden the left changed and said, well, rights and liberties aren't what is virtuous, social justice is what is virtuous, then these people just went completely along with it and completely abandoned the real principles that the Democrat Party was based on. So yeah, you still have some of them that are, you know, kind of the people that, like, when I was in my 20s, the people that were the big name liberals in Hollywood and so forth, they still kind of believe in it, but the rest of the party is leaving them behind. And you kind of have to wonder how long that will last before it becomes just like a coalition against communism, right? Doesn't Big Lebowski? I haven't seen that. I have that on my Netflix queue and I haven't watched it. I wonder at what point youth rebel against social justice? I don't know. The thing that I find really weird about that whole thing was that it really felt like oh man, I can't even, you can tell I haven't eaten or taken my medication because, like, my mind keeps going off on blanks and stuff. Tumblr. It really feels like that Tumblr was the first place that I started to see that sort of stuff, and that it was like really young kids that were pushing it. You know? What's with that? Was it just like really big advocates really, really pushing it intentionally on the youth and they picked it up or something? I don't know. But you're right. Like most people tend to experience some sort of change in their political beliefs when they get into their 30s, especially if they've had children. So we'll see what they do. We'll be like this forever. So you know what? I'm just noticing that I don't even have all of my, I don't have TweetDeck up here. Why did that not start up? I don't have Financial Juice either. And we've still got a good 30, 40 minutes to go. I just want to go in. I want the doctor to do his thing and be done. What should I eat? George Will recently wrote a book about what he has to say about conservatives today. It's interesting. He explains how Republican, as how I remember it, not today's version. Given the tendency of children and teenagers to rebel, logic would dictate they'd overwhelmingly rebel against social justice BS being jammed down their throats by an authority. Well, but I don't know if their parents necessarily, to them, they think that it's rebellious, even though those of us in our 30s very much realize that that's what power brokers are pushing. That's kind of a weird thing. That goes like with what Wynn was talking about. That's another really interesting thing is that I would say that the core conservative base has not really changed. But what really has happened is that for the last really 50 years, really since FDR, the Republican Party has not really truly represented what the base wants. They had it with Reagan, but even with Reagan, there was kind of still these problems. And then what happened? The guy that the base hated, George Bush, was the guy that won, right? And then he came in and he raised taxes, right? And then what was the next person that ran after that? Was or that was president? It was his son, right? And then what did we get after that? We got John McCain, who was very much not what the Republican base wants, and then you got Mitt Romney, right? It wasn't until Donald Trump that you got somebody that really expressed to any degree what the base was like feeling and thinking, right? So it really isn't that the Republican Party has changed. It's that people like George Will somehow had all of the power in the party despite what the majority of the voters actually wanted. Yeah, the core conservative base hasn't moved, but the left has gone so far left. The broader Republican Party has lurched left in order to survive. I think so. Well, so like I'm trying to think, what are the radical Republican positions right now? Are like abortion. That's not something that's changed in the Republican Party for a long time. In fact, I dare say that Republicans have gotten less extreme on abortion, because I think that most Republicans would say that abortion should be allowed like very, very early on in pregnancy, like the first 6 weeks. I think that most Republicans would say that abortion should be allowed in cases where health is in danger, or that there should be like medical exceptions made, right? Mostly Republicans at the current time are mostly against ending late-term abortion. That hasn't really changed. Economically, they haven't really changed. I think the one place where the Republicans have changed is as it regards to foreign policy, that Republicans were totally all in on going into Iraq. And you know what? I was totally all in on going into Iraq and Afghanistan. And you know, I'd say after seeing I don't know. Maybe I might have been okay about getting out of Afghanistan. Remember when all this was happening, I was saying like, well, like, I guess we have to get out of there at some point, but the way that they're going about it doesn't seem right to me. Right. Or like even when it was Trump negotiating with them. Although when it was Trump negotiating with them, it seemed like it was more like they weren't getting rid of Afghanistan. They were just going to give the Taliban a greater say in the government there, is what it was. I think that's what it was intended to be. And then it turned into Biden just let the Taliban completely take over instead. Let's see here. Radical gender theory started in the 90s. I don't know. I had never seen or heard anything about that stuff until I started seeing it on Twitter and Tumblr. You were pro Middle Eastern wars? Well, I at the time I was. Right? At the time, I think that the vast majority of Republicans favored it, right? And now, since Obama, it kind of changed during Obama. Republicans moved over to being very anti-war and anti the government war complex, whatever we call it, right? Like that whole conspiracy theory is a very, very strong force in the Republican Party now. And it wasn't like that during the Bush years. And I would argue that is really a return back to what Republicans were before. Right? Before World War II, remember, like, man, one of the problems is that Republicans, or not Republicans, the American public in general does not remember or know much about history before World War II, right? You got to remember that Republicans were the ones that were opposed to World War II. They wanted to sit it out. They wanted to sit World War II out, and FDR basically got elected and slowly did things and set things up so that the U.S. would get dragged into it, right? Because if they had their way, they would have just sat it out. And then you get before that, the time between FDR and the other Roosevelt, Teddy Roosevelt, right? There's that whole time period in there that we forget, where we don't know very much, we kind of skip over. And especially Republicans, because the Republicans were kind of on the bad side of a lot of that stuff, right? We fought those wars to enrich our position, maybe. That's an unprovable conspiracy theory, I would say. But anyways, it was a return back to, so that's the thing that's funny, is that there is a really hard component of the conservative party that was never really conservative at all. They were really just pro-war. And now that Republicans want to return back to like their roots. Well, not their roots, but now that conservatives, that's the other thing, is you got to differentiate between conservatives and Republicans. Like even during this goes back to the Civil War, frankly, right? There was the Republican Party and there was the Conservative Party. Well, wasn't the Conservative Party per se, but there was this conservative coalition. The Conservative Coalition was quite sympathetic to the South during the Civil War. Like you watched the movie Lincoln, and there's the conservative guys there, right? They're rich Southerners. That survives until today, right? And they're a different group than the Republican base, right? And it's certainly true that the conservatives have become a larger force on the Republican Party. Republicans appear to be ignoring globalization, build a wall, and keep the past inside. Coal is not coming back. Manufacturing jobs are not returning. And what about climate change? Yeah. Well, I think that's the shift that I think we've made the most. And I don't think that really has anything to do with past republicanism or not, but maybe more conservatism. But I think the idea is really that government closest to the people governs best, and that it's better to give local governments more control over how things do, instead of the federal government having all of the power, and in turn having some sort of a world government that controls everybody. And so there is the biggest paradigm shift that we've had is that it's turned into globalism versus anti-globalism, right? To really understand politics these days, you gotta understand that part. And I think that there's coalitions in both parties that are for and against that stuff. There are Democrats that are pro-globalists, and there are Republicans that are pro-globalists. And those happen to be the guys that have been kind of like in charge. And especially if you've been enriched by globalism, then you're like totally in favor of it, right? Also, I missed the comment here. Mono P, bonds are set to outperform stocks on a relative basis. Says who? We'll see what happens here. Do you follow RRG by Julius de Kempar? It's one factor among a large asset manager portfolio manager's toolkit for decision making. I'm not sure I've ever heard of that. Let's look it up. Those words just sound new, but sometimes I look these things up and I'm like, oh, I know what you're talking about. Relative rotation graphs. No, I've never heard of that before. Oh my, they have a whole website about it though. It kind of sounds like I'm being marketed something. He's a buy-side quant until 1997. Yeah, they have a whole service. Oh, it looks interesting. Oh, it's free? Wait, it's free? Come on, there's got to be, they're making money somewhere in there. Well, I'll try it later. I'll leave that tab open. I'll try it later. So that reminds me, I've got to do some organization here, man. Because I keep coming over the weekend and I'm like, oh, I need to do this. Why am I not focusing here? Why am I not focusing here? And then I forget about them all. Isn't that typical? Everyone sells something. Most portfolio managers use something like this. So, without being able to really get a good idea, here on stream, well, I'll click with Wynn's link, but it sounds like this is basically saying which sectors have outperformed, and as such, what kind of portfolio, what is the word? Portfolio reallocations are going to need to be made. That's what it sounds like. And if that's true, then that would be very much something we should be interested in. Okay, so what do I have a bunch of research stuff that I want to do. I got to finish the treasury models. See, now my mind is blank. when I have time, what are the things I should be researching? My yield curve chart, we need to fix that, do that up. And Alice, we should add her in there. You guys would really benefit from having Alice. Securities within sectors. Okay. And then down here, I'm going to have videos. I want to have that one on data. And I want to have one on the DOM. And one on TA is a waste of time. What else do we need to get into? What is other new person stuff? And then we got to make our marquee. I might have time to do that today. How to organize the screen for the most of it. No, I'm not so concerned about that sort of stuff. That's so much personal preference. I'm more concerned about the things that you need to know to even get yourself to the point where you're set up and you can execute. Well, I already wrote a lot of stuff down on that piece of paper there. What do you think about the Chinese financial crisis? Can it hit global markets? Well, it looks like it's hit global financial markets this morning, right? So I don't think that that's really the question. The question is how bad for the rest of the world can it get, right? Okay, so let me rephrase that, Manu. I don't think that my viewers are that interested in how to organize the screen. That is kind of the issue, though, is what we really want is like, okay, they come in, they don't know how to set up. Well, let's say they don't know what software to use. So they go and watch my video. What is the best futures trading software platform? And then they go, oh, okay, so I want to use NinjaTrader. How do I get myself set up? So then I've got a video about what is the best data and broker and stuff to use, which I do have a video for that, but it's kind of old and it needs to be updated, and it wasn't specific to that, and so it didn't have the keywords in it that would get people to go, oh, I need to click on that one, right? And then they all go up and get started, and they say, okay, wait, what is the DOM and how do I use it so that I can submit orders? Okay. And then once they get done with that, then they go, okay, what is it that I need to actually be watching in the depth of market to be able to develop a strategy? Okay. And then how do I develop my strategies? And I already have a series of videos about those, although I really need to come up with better titles or something to, so that people understand the value in those videos, because at the moment I don't think that they do. You have to set up a funnel and feedback loop to understand what the viewers want, especially the ones discovering you after 2 years of video creation. Yeah, well, so the reason I was getting on this was because I watched a video the other day. Here, I'll show you. I was watching a video the other day, and this guy was saying that one of the most important things that you can do is creating like a pathway, so that when people come in and watch your channel, they don't just watch one video and leave. That they watch one video, they get to the end screen, and then they click on the video on the end screen and they watch 3 or 4 videos. So if you can get your videos per user watched up, then that is where your channel will really start to take off, according to him. Or that's how his channel really started to take off. So if I come in here, and I got to go to see more, and then I got to click on, yes, not views by video, more metrics, average views per viewer. Over the last 90 days, for instance, and I just select the total, right? You can see I'm average 1.2, maybe almost 1.7 the day that Gary Norton came, or that we did the interview with Gary Norton. Volume weighted average is one of the higher ones up there. See, Gary Norton interview, we're getting 2. Buy the dip. Oh, that's a live stream. That's interesting. Right. So I think that I've let that part of the channel languish, and so we need to make our next couple of videos about that sort of thing, so that they get to it. It'll be like I think the hardware video will still be like the main entrance point that people will find, but then the next thing that they should do is like, which software should I use? I think that video is still good. Then it should be, what data should I use, right? And then it's, how do I actually use it? Set metrics driven goals. Yeah. Then once I have all of that stuff set up again, then I think I really do want to finish the philosophy kind of videos. Like I have a bunch of videos that are ideas that are basically like, these are approaches that you need to have. These are the sorts of things that, if I had known when I had started, I would have wasted less time. Right? Like why technical analysis is not all that effective and isn't very fertile ground to dig, and where should you go elsewhere? Why trying to follow other people is a dead end. That sort of a thing. Right. Once I get there, then what I need to do, and this is the hard one, is then I really need to start making videos just to target the front page. Like I've learned the thing that really gets a channel going is that people seeing it on the front page want to click on it. So I've made so many videos that were more geared towards search, but like one of my most popular videos is stop wasting time with Robinhood and trade futures. Right. I need more videos like that where the whole concept and the title and everything is geared towards attracting people on the front page. I've started to do a pretty good job with that on TikTok. Like I'm starting to get that viewership on TikTok. It was really weird this weekend. I don't know what it was. Like somebody commented on an old video or something, and I got a few hundred followers over the weekend for doing nothing. And I think I got some ideas about what I'm going to post this week that will help there in TikTok. Because here's the thing. I mean, I'm doing pretty well. There was one of the things that really kind of irked me was this guy came in and he was like, I was talking about my cryptocurrency thing. He's like, well, if you're really doing so well and you've been trading cryptocurrencies since 2017, you should be rich by now. And I'm like, no. Even if I had put everything that I had into that, I still, and I got the best price and I was still in, I still wouldn't have made as much as I make in my day job doing that. No. Sorry, doesn't work that way. A lot of people have really unrealistic expectations about what to get out of trading. And those are, I think, maybe one of the videos. Like, I think that I need to have one video that is like how much you make from trading, or like what your expectations should be. How much should you trade with, that sort of a thing? Because I think that could attract attention and be useful. So a lot of people just have unrealistic expectations about what to get from trading. It's kind of funny. Yeah, have evergreen videos. Yeah, those are all evergreen videos. I think that some of them are a little bit out of date. Anyways, what was I saying? But what I really want to do, what I really want is I want to have more current market analysis. Like, I feel like what is currently going on right now, like when you look at what Graham Stephan does, right? They're usually about current issues. And that's where I want to get, is spending more time doing those. But to do those, I need to have a much faster turnaround time and everything. So it would really be useful if I could get the channel out to a point where you could live off of it, but that I don't live off of it, I pay somebody else, right? I need to get the channel to, yeah.
What time do you have to leave us for the doctor's appointment?
Between 7:15 and 7:30 here. So probably when we finish this line of discussion, probably I'll end it. Set up a video farm for living off of it. And you know, the other thing is, like, it would be nice to have multiple channels. Like, I produce a lot of content here on the stream that is really good content. When you guys ask a good question, right, that could be turned into a more serious video, right? But I need to get to the point where I can pay somebody $3,000 a month to just, their job is my channel, right? And then that's where we're going to get to the point where then there will be enough that I can live off of it too. And then I could just spend all my time focusing on that. And then we'd be able to really give you guys significant content that would be way more useful for you on a regular basis, instead of, you know, once a week. Like, I would love to be able to post 2 or 3 times a week, right? By talking about current issues. Like, one of my issues right now is that, like, I don't talk about trivial stuff. There's a lot of things that, like, regular people won't understand, but I'm just like, my guys should know that it's too trivial, right? Separate channels. And I would love to have a channel about the politics side of it. Current politics. Because I think that there's some room for doing politics in more of an analytical way, which isn't necessarily always what we talk about here on stream, but I think that it's something that we should do. Because I you know, like, there's the 538, but he has his own biases. I think that he doesn't understand the limitations of this kind of data analysis, but because some of the predictions that he's made were, like, really awful. Anyways, have people hired elsewhere in the world. YouTube jobs now contain channel managers. Yeah, but I think that the person that I would hire would be more of a video editor, right? Probably the first thing that I would hire is a video editor for the channel. Now, I'm just noticing here, I realizing that I never looked at Bitcoin. Okay, because First Quack says Bitcoin extends losses down 9% to near 4,300 for the first time since August 7th. And they have extended the losses from October 7th. So really, we have to go all the way back into August. Sorry, that was September 7th. And then we have to go back into August to see further back. So when we see these really big skips up, so like all of this right here, might not be a big deal, but when we start to get into these big gaps, that is, to me, is like a large buyer or group of buyers are long from here. So if we get below, let's say 3,400, below 3,400 would be pretty bad for Bitcoin, but that's quite a ways away from here. I've seen some middle-sized channels say that they've used Fiverr. $10 to $15 an hour? Really? 160 hours a month times $15 an hour is about 2,400. Yeah. So, yeah, it's the 34,000, not 3,400. You're right. Yeah. So I want to get to the point where the channel is making, 2 to 3K a month. That's not a great starting salary for somebody, though, is it? 3,000 times 12 a year is 3,600 a year, right? That's pretty basic. Make your own personal back office. Well, I think that if I got to the point where the channel was really making it's like some of these guys, like Graham Seven would be a great example. Like that guy is making serious bank from that channel, right? And he's doing a very good job at managing it. But if I was him, I would be turning it into the business. I would start hiring coders for sure. I would start hiring coders and being like, let's make even more effective indicators and models and stuff and sell them. And but research out, or just hire people and become a hedge fund, What are YouTube revenue drivers? It's basically dollars per 1,000 views. Yeah, which you make pretty good money from. Now the other thing though is like sponsorships and things like that. You can make a lot of money from the sponsorships. One of the problems that I have is that there's only so much that I can do for people with the futures. Like I got contacted by this one lady, and then they're a new data provider, and it's like, okay, but how is it different from Rhythmic or CQG? And it was basically like there wasn't really any difference. So I was like, so then how did you end up starting being a data provider? How did you even get into that then? So, like I would love to make a video, like do a sponsored video for you or something, but like, what would I put? Like your money would be wasted. You spend me a few K for a sponsored video like that. Yes, I have multiple channels. Yeah. Anyways, like the point was that with day trade, with futures, the few sponsorships that you can get can be very lucrative. But there's a limited field for it. Whereas if you're in general finance, then all of a sudden it's like crazy. Like that, some of these guys that are kind of in a more general finance sense are making, millions of dollars, several millions of dollars. And I look at that and I'm like, oh, that could be like 10 people that I could hire, to make better content. Meet Kevin. Yeah, the thing that I think is so weird is that a lot of these guys, like, I don't actually understand why their channels are popular. Like, I can't point to a specific video or anything like that got them there. Like, what was it that some of these videos are like? There's really like, how are anybody clicking on these things? It's really kind of weird. But I don't know. And I don't think that I necessarily need to have a different channel to get into more general stuff. Right? I learned what the customer wants through feedback, I guess. I do. There are some. Meet Kevin is a little different. Meet Kevin, he talks about current issues and stuff like that. It's just like the format of his show, I guess, just doesn't appeal to me. But he's got... He has good titles and stuff, or subjects that people are interested in that people see on the front page and click on. There are some other ones though where it's like all of their videos are basically just like, here's today's morning briefing or whatever it is, and he just has a ton of people following them, and I'm like, how did they find all of these people? Oh, you funded an earn to trade combine. Good for you. Feed them what they want. Feed the dogs him. Well, something that we could do is, actually, I don't think we actually ever need to do that. But I think that I can put more general finance subjects here on the channel and not hurt the futures trading stuff, right? So it just has to be, and I kind of have to work backwards, right? Like, I have to work from... Like, if I just started posting like a really basic finance stuff, you guys would be like, you wouldn't care, right? And then where would they go from there? Because they're not going to go from general finance to how to trade futures, right? So we have to make that transition. But what I just laid out, if we're going really at a good clip, should keep us busy until the end of the year. So. And then I just need to make sure that I've got things written up and everything prepared so that on the weekend I can put them together very quickly. Yeah, earlier it was real estate. It really is. Real estate really is. I'm surprised how many people are into real estate. So I would like to get into commercial real estate, but I don't know if now is the best time. Do you want to have a niche that doesn't match the revenue driver? No, well, what exactly? I don't think that those contradict each other necessarily. So like the thing that I want to do on TikTok today or tomorrow, depending on how I'm feeling after the colonoscopy, is, you really should, the knowledge from a futures trader is really valuable to other investors, right? Like, when you're a stock trader, you can kind of come in and there can be really successful stock traders that just don't really know a whole lot about the markets because they're just really good at like knowing what stock is going to be popping off or whatever that day and getting in early. You know what I mean? And so you don't have to learn all of this other stuff about like different financial conditions, different types of action, different types of liquidity, because a futures trader, you're specializing in one instrument and you have to deal with it every day. You have to understand the macroeconomics behind what's going on. You have to really keep up with the news, all of these sorts of things. And so learning from a futures trader, you're kind of learning from like the most serious guys. And so that's where it's really valuable. And then but at that point it gets more into like the sort of stuff that I think is more my content is like the Federal Reserve is going to taper. And what does that mean? The government assistance programs are ending. What does that mean? And what does that mean for stocks, right? That's something that I think should be able to bring in a lot of people. But I think there's some other things that we can do. I also need to clean up I'm thinking with my Patreon. I'm thinking about cleaning up the Patreon a little bit, getting rid of, right now, like all of the posts become public after a week. So I'm thinking that I'm going to clamp down on that and only, yeah. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop posting it to the public and a little bit of rebranding it, because really what it is it's the Buffett indicator for cryptos. The Buffett indicator for cryptos, and do a little bit around that and get that revenue stream working a little bit more efficiently. And maybe even start to try and provide more data on that so that it's more worth it to people. And then at some point, I think that I want to cut it off. Like right now, it's $5 a month. I think that what I'll do is I'll just cut off subscriptions at the existing tier. So everybody that's in, you'll still be able to pay $5. But then beyond that, you'll have to pay $20 or something like that. I don't think that the indicator changes enough from day to day for you to spend $20 on it. Otherwise you would just pay $20 when you're interested once a month or every other month. And then, so I think I need to be providing more content through that channel if I'm going to do that. But so I can kind of do those things too. And then with my own indicators, well, I think that they're really good, and I think that the YouTube is going really, really well. But I have some to add, so I should add some stuff in there. Okay, guys, it is time for me to get going. So I will see you tomorrow. In the meantime, stay